China's epidemic crisis. Sudden deaths become the norm, long queues at Dalian crematoriums. Late-night earthquake in Beihai, Guangxi, leaves residents sighing. 2024 is not peaceful. Following Caixin, another mainland media outlet challenges Xi, warns of an uncontrollable shift in the CCP. Zhongzhi shockingly entered bankruptcy liquidation, shadow banking industry shaken. It's all covered in today's China Truths. China's epidemic crisis. Sudden deaths become the norm, long queues at Dalian crematoriums. The epidemic continues to be serious and ongoing, and the Chinese Communist Party is persistently concealing the actual scale of the epidemic and the truth about the death toll. Residents from different areas of mainland China have disclosed to the Epoch Times that sudden deaths have now become a common occurrence and are no longer considered unusual. For example, Ms. Ming from Shanghai mentioned that a resident from her building was recently cremated. In addition, there have been 2 or 3 other deaths within their residential area, involving individuals she didn't know well. Her cousin-in-law, who was discharged from the hospital after being infected with the virus, went back home and unexpectedly passed away while sitting on a sofa. She believes that her cousin-in-law had COVID-19 symptoms, but the hospital wouldn't confirm it as COVID-19. Even when someone died from COVID-19, the hospitals wouldn't record it as the cause of death. The doctors explicitly said that if you want to cremate the body, they can't acknowledge COVID-19 as the cause, otherwise, they wouldn't cremate the body, and it would just remain in the morgue freezer. Ms. Ming also mentioned an encounter during a walk when she met a woman who had lost 3 relatives to COVID-19. She emphasized that many have died following infection with the virus. Regarding the recent surge in infections, she said, the situation has been dreadful lately, especially with a high number of infections among children. She also heard about a child who died at school. Ms. Ming is of the opinion that the majority of these sudden deaths are occurring among those who have received the Chinese vaccine. She feels fortunate to have avoided these adverse circumstances. Meanwhile, in Dalian, a city in Liaoning province, residents are experiencing long waits at crematoriums for the cremation of bodies. A Dalian resident, Mr. Mo, shared in a recent interview with the Epoch Times that all 10 furnaces at this particular crematorium were operating continuously. He described the crematorium as a large building, housing 10 furnaces spread across different locations. The interior is intricately divided into various halls. Additionally, Mr. Mo noted that several individuals he knew had developed new illnesses after receiving the Chinese vaccine, including heart disease and leukemia, conditions they had not previously had. Late-night earthquake in Beihai, Guangxi, leaves residents sighing. 2024 is not peaceful. China has recently experienced a series of frequent earthquakes. On January 4th at night, a 4.2 magnitude earthquake hit the sea area of the Beihai district in Beihai City, Guangxi. The quake was felt not only in Beihai City but also in neighboring cities, including Zhongzhi, with especially strong tremors on Weizhou Island. In response, Beihai's Earthquake and Disaster Relief Headquarters initiated a Level 4 emergency response from 2300 hours on January 4th. A resident recounted being awakened by the quake, starting with a loud noise and causing her bed and wardrobe to shake for a few seconds. Many people evacuated their buildings following the quake. An online video showed a man diving under an office desk for safety during the quake. He emerged and left the building once the shaking stopped. The China Fire Service reported no emergency calls or casualty reports as of 23:15 that day. Prior to this, on the night of December 18th, a powerful 6.2 magnitude earthquake struck Caixin County, Ningxia Prefecture, Gansu Province. Over 200 aftershocks followed within 6 hours, all below magnitude 4, leading to thousands of injuries and deaths. The earthquakes have caused considerable alarm among netizens in mainland China, with remarks like 2024 is not peaceful. On Weibo, users expressed concerns about the intense tectonic activity, urging caution and emphasizing the need for safety due to the alarming intensity of the building tremors. Following Caixin, another mainland media outlet challenges Xi, warns of an uncontrollable shift in the CCP. As China's economy deteriorates, signs of growing anti-Xi sentiment aimed at preserving the Chinese Communist Party are becoming more evident within the party itself. Following an editorial on Caixin Network that seemed to criticize CCP leader Xi Jinping for misguiding the country, another domestic media outlet, China Business News, published an editorial on January 4, also laden with challenges to Xi Jinping. The editorial, titled "The Best Promise is to Let Go and Decentralize Power," begins by acknowledging the complex and fluctuating circumstances facing China's economy. It includes reduced demand, supply disruptions, weakened expectations, and issues like loose monetary policy alongside tight credit. Despite numerous supportive policies, private businesses have not substantially benefited. The piece then highlights the necessity of limiting power and setting clear boundaries, and references the so-called reforms and opening up. It asserts that China's economic growth over the past 45 years has occurred in tandem with the government's decentralization of power. This editorial is termed a tower-charging article, referring to the act of making bold, often controversial statements or taking actions that challenge authority. However, the China Business News editorial subtly targets Xi Jinping rather than directly challenging the CCP system. Observers believe Xi Jinping thought he could safeguard himself by holding tightly to the CCP's power. Instead, his role as the chief accelerator has pushed the CCP towards a precipice, prompting other threatened CCP elites to unite against him. Following a tumultuous 2023, the year 2024 might witness significant turmoil within the CCP's political sphere. Commentator Zhong Yuan outlined 5 potential major and unpredictable shifts within the CCP in 2024. The CCP leader may face challenges. Some foresee Xi Jinping experiencing a severe illness in 2024, in line with prophecies like those in the Tui Beitu and Tai Ban Shu. Xi might also confront a coup, a threat he has been actively guarding against. Without an appointed successor, any misfortune befalling Xi could plunge CCP politics into chaos, possibly leading to abrupt changes in China. There may be discontent among CCP generals facing a significant purge, potentially causing a severe backlash and Xi Jinping potentially losing grip over the military. A financial and fiscal crisis might erupt. CCP officials adopting a lying flat approach might lead to the failure of institutional reforms within the CCP aimed at redistributing power, thus precipitating a new governance crisis. The occurrence of frequent natural and human-made disasters might push people to desperation, potentially igniting a popular revolt. Zhong Yuan believes that historical peasant uprisings often arose under such circumstances. With China's economy severely ailing and the populace struggling for employment and survival, any calamity could be catastrophic. The increasing passivity among CCP officials is likely to lead to inaction, chaos, and deception, further fueling the long-standing rage in the hearts of the populace, potentially serving as a catalyst for a change in regime. Zhongzhi shockingly entered bankruptcy liquidation, shadow banking industry shaken. China's largest fund management company, Zhongzhi Group, was hit hard in November last year and filed for bankruptcy liquidation, which has been accepted by the Beijing court. On January 5, the Beijing No. 1 Intermediate Court issued a notice stating that Zhongzhi Enterprise Group applied for bankruptcy liquidation on the grounds that it could not pay off its due debts, had insufficient assets to pay off all debts, and clearly lacked solvency. After review, the Beijing No. 1 Intermediate People's Court held that the application met the reasons for bankruptcy specified in Article 2, Paragraph 1 of the Enterprise Bankruptcy Law, and ruled on January 5 to accept the bankruptcy liquidation application of Zhongzhi Enterprise Group. The giant company, which at its peak managed assets worth more than 1 trillion yuan, about $140 billion, collapsed quickly after China's real estate sector fell into a devastating crisis. The civil ruling stated that Zhongzhi's liquidity was seriously insufficient, with only 1.81 million yuan, $0.25 million, in remaining monetary funds. Zhongzhi's bankruptcy is one of the largest in China's history, putting more pressure on already fragile Chinese consumer and investor sentiment. Sluggish real estate, weak domestic demand and sluggish trade have all weighed on the economy, with mainland stock indexes plummeting for 3 consecutive years. Just months before Zhongzhi filed for bankruptcy, a trust company affiliated with the lending giant first sparked concerns in financial markets when it failed to repay customer investments in high-yield investment products. Zhongzhi said in a letter to investors in November 2023 that its debts were as high as 420 billion to 460 billion yuan, about 59 to 65 billion US dollars, while its assets were only 200 billion yuan, about 28 billion US dollars. 3 days after Zhongzhi disclosed that it was seriously insolvent, the Chaoyang branch of the Beijing Municipal Public Security Bureau notified the public that it would launch an investigation into the wealth company affiliated to the Zhongzhi Group. The Beijing police took criminal coercive measures against a number of suspects. This bankruptcy exposed the flaws in China's 22 trillion yuan, about 3 trillion US dollars, trust asset market, and also highlighted the risks of China's rapidly developing private credit market. The Chinese Communist authorities lack public information and transparency on financing channels outside the banking system. Reuters said the worsening plight of Zhongzhi Group has heightened concerns about the spread of China's real estate debt crisis to the broader financial sector. Zhongzhi is one of the largest players in an industry that provides investment products to wealthy households and businesses and is a key component of shadow banking. Zhongzhi's bankruptcy may have chain reactions. Xiaoxi Zhang, an analyst at Shanghai-based Gavgal Dragonomics, told the Wall Street Journal that Zhongzhi's bankruptcy could have ripple effects. She said, domestic investor sentiment is likely to get worse, especially for wealthy investors. She continued, of course, other shadow banking institutions may follow suit. Chinese people who have a thorough understanding of Beijing's governance rules reminded on overseas social media X that the Beijing court's acceptance of Zhongzhi's bankruptcy case is a signal that various localities would begin to maintain stability for victims of Zhongzhi. This is equivalent to an official announcement. 1. The action to distribute the spoils in the Zhongzhi Group has officially begun. 2. A reminder to retail investors who are being exploited, stop making trouble, and you will be arrested if you make trouble again. On China's domestic social media Weibo, some netizens left messages saying, the entire Zhongzhi department has been bankrupt and liquidated. It has come to an end. Each class has its corresponding sickle waiting. Someone else wrote, the rich will die in trust, the middle class will die in stocks, and the poor will die in P2P. According to a previous analysis by Ying Yu, a lawyer from Shanghai legal law firm, Zhongzhi's investors may suffer economic losses of more than 75%, and the case trial process is expected to be slow and lengthy. Ying Yu is responsible for asset management business dispute cases. According to Bloomberg estimates, Zhongzhi's investors may end up getting back only about 13% of their principal. Sun Jianba, Beijing-based president of Huaxin Capital, told Bloomberg that the recoverable amount from asset disposal is expected to be lower because Zhongzhi's liquidity has dried up. Currently, Zhongzhi has only 1.81 million yuan, $0.25 million US dollars, of liquidity left. The case of Zhongzhi is completely different from the past thunderstorms. Although Zhongzhi's explosion was expected, the direct application for bankruptcy proceedings was different from the past handling. Because in recent years, no matter how big the debt crisis is in China, debt restructuring is often the first step to avoid formal bankruptcy. HNA Group, which collapsed with 1.2 trillion debt, about 170 billion US dollars, completed its restructuring in 2022. Evergrande's default in 2021 has accelerated China's real estate crisis, but with a debt of 2 trillion, about 300 billion US dollars, it is still trying to avoid liquidation and has not yet filed for bankruptcy. The Financial Times quoted a China Financial Group fund manager in Hong Kong as saying that the news that Zhongzhi had directly entered liquidation was very shocking. At the same time, Zhongzhi's bankruptcy also highlights the challenges Beijing faces in dealing with large-scale and sometimes hidden debt problems, and illustrates the failure of the Communist Party of China's efforts to deleverage riskier areas of China's financial system. Alicia Garcia Herrero, chief Asia-Pacific economist at Natixis, warned that Chinese trust companies' exposure to real estate and other parts of the shadow finance industry may have shifted to larger banks. Beijing refused to rescue Zhongzhi and started auditing its accounts last year. Some analysts said that the court's acceptance of Zhongzhi's bankruptcy case also highlighted Beijing's unwillingness to rescue financial companies in trouble due to real estate investment. In August 2023, Zhongzhi first aroused concerns about its explosion when one of its trust companies failed to promptly pay dividends from high-yield investment products to customers. Bloomberg quoted people familiar with the matter as saying that also in the same month, the Chinese authorities had asked the country's two largest financial companies to inspect Zhongrong International's books. This may be Beijing's exploration of whether to take the lead in bailing out the troubled shadow bank. At the end of October of the same year, Xi Jinping, leader of the Communist Party of China, attended the National Financial Work Conference held every 5 years and emphasized the need to effectively prevent financial risks and severely crack down on illegal financial activities. Later, the banking regulator, which oversees trust companies, vowed to use strong medicine to deal with major risks. The Wall Street Journal said Zhongzhi Enterprise Group declared bankruptcy after a disastrous year, raising concerns that the world's second-largest economy is facing a Lehman moment. Shadow banks like Zhongzhi are loosely regulated companies that pool household savings to provide loans and invest in real estate, stocks, bonds, and commodities. The trust industry is an important source of alternative financing for weaker borrowers such as real estate developers and local government financing vehicles who cannot obtain conventional bank loans. Headquartered in Beijing, Zhongzhi was founded in 1995 and is involved in real estate, mining, manufacturing, trust, asset management, wealth management, insurance, funds, futures, and other industries. At its peak, its assets exceeded 1 trillion yuan, about $140 billion. Its website states that the group holds shares in 6 licensed financial institutions, including Zhongrong International Trust, 5 asset management companies, and 4 wealth management companies. The 4 wealth management companies are Hengtian Wealth, Datang Wealth, Xinhu Wealth, and Daoxing Wealth. Don't forget to comment in the section below to share your opinions on today's topic with us. If you find the information helpful, please share this video with a friend to watch together. This will be a great source of motivation for our team to produce more and more quality and reliable videos. And also don't forget to like and subscribe to see more interesting topics from China Truths. Thank you for tuning in.